What's up, guys? It's Jades back here for yet another fantasy fights matchup. This is probably going to be the biggest burial you have ever seen me do on the channel because I have facts, feats, statements, and outside science and quantifications of feats to back up everything I claim in this video to be true, because it is. Now, the reason I'm making Klaus versus Scott in a video format instead of the live streaming format that Historic was going to do, because in a debate you kind of need time to get your facts back up, and you kind of need time to make sure you're good to go before you even get ahead in debating someone, right? So yeah, also he doesn't really know how to debate properly, even though he claims he's going to law school to debate. The purpose of debating is not to win or lose against someone. It's to get that other person that you're debating with to agree with an idea or standpoint that you're defending on your end of the debate. If you do not get that person to agree with the points of view that you are coming from or the points that you're trying to make while you're trying to debate, you automatically, well, I don't want to say you automatically lose, but you definitely don't win the debate. So yeah, he doesn't understand that. Even though he says he's going to law school for debating, he should probably learn that before he even gets to law school. Otherwise, he's probably going to have a very hard time. So yeah, today we're doing Scott versus Klaus. I can't believe I'm actually making this video because it's very apparent on who's stronger. I have clips, I have quantifications for feats, and one thing I've seen him do in his debates when it comes to Scott versus Klaus is that he doesn't know what the term quantifying means. He goes to the versus battle wiki and acts like he knows how to properly power scale, but he doesn't really power scale properly, and he doesn't do the proper research. In all the live streams I've seen him do, he'll do a quick Google search and try to look up some feats and be like, debunk, 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 debunk. That's not how you debunk someone. One of the most important aspects of power scaling, and yes, I have been doing my research over the last few weeks, and I have been watching the goats of the community of power scaling, such as Seth the programmer, Chuck the cyber cuck, what's his name, a bunch of other people, right? So like Seth the programmer, like all the usual power scalers you would probably find on YouTube and like the Dragon Ball community and stuff like that. Swag Kage's kind of a power scaler too. YFV Jobbers and Goons is another power scaler that I watch. So the reason, the thing that makes them so great when it comes to power scaling is that they understand the fundamentals of power scaling and what you need to be a proper power scaler, and what you need to essentially power scale the right way. And like I mentioned before, one of the most important things you need when power scaling is being able to quantify things. In a lot of DemiGod's debates, he doesn't quantify. He'll simply bring up a feat, find the clip, and just try to like explain the context of the clip, in which most of the time we already know what the context is of that clip, but he will never quantify. So yeah, in this video, you're going to see me quantify by using actual math the feats that mainly Klaus Mikaelson does, because I think that Klaus, we should be able to quantify, or a lot of his are already quantified, right? So yeah, we're going to quantify his feats, and then we're going to try to scale that to Scott. We're not going to use any outside influence in this. We're not going to do Elijah Mikaelson helping Klaus in his fights. We're only going to go based on screen what we have seen from Scott McCall and what we have seen on screen from Niklaus Mikaelson. So no hypotheticals in this video, no nothing. No being like, oh, Scott's going to rip off people's body limbs, even though we've never seen him do that. So yeah, none of that bullshit here. So yeah, it's already like 4 minutes into the video, probably wasting time right now. So let's just get into it. So who do I think is going to win right off the bat? My opinion, it's Klaus. Very easy, and it's very obvious why. So we're going to go over essentially what Scott has done first, and then we're going to explain just why Klaus wins and why he wins with like 0 to low difficulty. And it's pretty much just like him fighting another creature from his verse that's like not at his power level, but like below him, it's kind of like him fighting like Catherine Pierce, right? So Scott in the series of Teen Wolf, and this is coming from a diehard Teen Wolf fan. Like, y'all know, this is a Teen Wolf channel. I talk about Teen Wolf more than I do the Vampire Diaries and the originals. I like Teen Wolf more than the Vampire Diaries and the originals. And as a Teen Wolf fan, I am telling you that Scott McCall is going to job out horribly. So I had gathered and watched a bunch of clips, and I'm also rewatching the series. So I've seen these clips multiple times over this past week. So if you say that I'm wrong, I have the clips on here to prove you wrong regardless. So season 4, Scott had a terrible run in terms of fights. This man literally was running away on screen from berserkers. Man was jobbing out to berserkers. Man was getting thrown around in your house, my house, laying flat on his ass, looking up at the lights constantly. In like every single episode you see him fight, which is not many, it's probably a few. And then on top of that, not only did he job out to the berserkers, this man was also jobbing out to Kate Argent as well. Now, people are going to make the argument, and I've already debunked this in a previous video I made like 2 months ago called Strongest in Teen Wolf Scott McCall, where people were like, well, Scott wasn't fully shifted, so he couldn't beat Kate. Wrong. We've seen Scott fight in the series against other supernatural creatures and pseudo supernaturals such as the chimeras, where he's not fully shifted, where he can clearly still get the W. So yeah, Scott doesn't need to be fully shifted always in order to get the W in terms of beating people in fights. So the fact that he lost to Kate, and the fact that Kate is not really experienced at this point in time with her supernatural powers all that much, doesn't really have that much control over her supernatural, and has been a supernatural for a lesser amount of time than Scott has, makes this loss all the more embarrassing on Scott McCall's part. So just stating that. Also, I've seen DemiGod make comments saying that Scott McCall has also beaten the Dread Doctors and has beaten Garrett Douglas. That is not the case. I have the clips of both of those fights and encounters right here. We're gonna go on the Dread Doctors fight real quick. Scott got a few decent hits in on the Dread Doctors, but they were barely phased. Instant recovery, and this man was laying flat on his ass, looking up at the lights again, jobbed out, getting thrown around upside down, reversals. This man getting bodied. Also, before this fight, he also had an encounter with the same Dread Doctor where he still got bodied, got put up on the wall, got electrocuted, got put through the torture rack. Man got bodied. Now, also in season 5, he had to contend with the Beast of Gévaudan. We're not going to talk about the Liam fight because we all know the context behind that. Scott was inhaling wolfsbane for a few weeks, so by the time the supermoon came around, Liam was pretty much whooping his ass because Scott was heavily weakened by the inhaling of the wolfsbane from his inhaler that Theo gave him. So yeah, he also fought the Beast. And when I mean fight, the thing that Scott tends to do that I've noticed in these clips and while watching the series, because I've been rewatching the series for the last 2 weeks, so I'm fresh off Teen Wolf. The thing that Scott tends to do half the time is just roar. He likes to roar more than he likes to fight. And yeah, that's not good. In this fight, you're not going to be roaring against Klaus, because Klaus is going to be speed blitzing you and chopping off your head literally within the first few seconds of the fight. And also in the fight against Peter, which I have here too, Scott's reaction speed, although impressive for himself, it's not really impressive when it comes to the Vampire Diaries universe and just how fast those creatures fight. We've all seen Klaus and how he fights. He fights literally using his supernatural speed. So as fast as he runs, that's as fast as he fights. So yeah, and Scott has never reacted to somebody moving that quick before. Now, when Peter was hitting him and throwing his hits, Scott's reaction, it was very impressive, but it was only impressive to the point where it was like Peter was not even striking that quick. He was striking with the same amount of speed that a usual werewolf would strike at, and Scott was just able to perceive him and just dodge and move out the way and move his arms. Scott has never perceived anybody throwing hits as fast as Klaus does. So yeah, him being able to perceive Klaus's hits, I highly doubt that. Klaus is going to move way too quick for him. Like, Scott got his ass kicked literally throughout most of this fight and really only recovered from Peter towards the end when he started doing all that ultra instinct perceiving shit later on in the series. And we've also seen Klaus be able to perceive hits way faster than Scott can on camera too. So yeah, and the strongest strength feat Scott has on screen is the Belasco feat in season 5 part 1, when Scott literally stands up and with a flick of his wrist literally breaks Belasco's arm to the point where his bones are sticking out of his forearm. So yeah, that's the strongest feat we have for Scott in terms of Scott McCall and Teen Wolf as well. At his weakest, he can rip off a doorknob, which is something like a majority of the creatures in the Vampire Diaries can already do. So it's not really impressive when looking at that as well. So yeah, it's far beyond any human capacity in terms of Scott's like strength level. But like I mentioned before, at his weakest, he can break the doorknob off a locked door. It can knock out a fellow supernatural creature with one solid punch to the head. But we already know most of the supernaturals in Teen Wolf are heavily like underscaled. They don't scale to a majority of the supernaturals from the Vampire Diaries, the originals, or legacies at all. And yeah, at his strongest level, he can break through like a stone entrance, which is impressive, I guess. Which goes to show that Scott's strength is, I would put him at least wall level, so he's at least like a 9B on the scaling, which is what I had him at first. Which is what I had him at first when I was trying to power scale a few weeks ago, where Scott would be. In my opinion, he's at least a 9B because we've seen him be able to do, like I said, break through a stone entrance, which is like wall level. So yeah, he's also seen breaking through steel restraints despite being tortured by electricity, and he also carried out Kira Yukimura out of Icon House, which goes to show just how durable he actually is when it comes to certain properties. So like electricity is gonna do some damage to him, or actually no, it's gonna do a lot of damage, because Scott even said that when he carried Kira out of Icon House, it damn near almost killed him. So yeah, impressive feat, but the fact that it almost killed him isn't really worth talking about either. I mean, it's a good durability feat, but yeah. In terms of his super speed, Scott's not really that fast either. I would put him at least at superhuman speeds. That's literally giving him the best I can give him, because the fastest speed feat we've seen Scott do is in season 1, episode 1, where he ran from his house to the Beacon Hills Preserve, which is a distance of a few miles in like 3 to 5 minutes, which is impressive for a werewolf and Teen Wolf, not gonna lie. But in terms of the Vampire Diaries, we have Niklaus Mikaelson literally running from state to state to state to state, literally running over. How many states is Louisiana away from Virginia? United States map. One, two, three, four, five, 6 states. So Niklaus Mikaelson was able to run through 7 states in 10 minutes. Scott is not touching Klaus whatsoever. Please believe that. And if you don't think that is true, I'm going to do the quantifications right here to prove that that feat is true in itself, because it was actually stated, if I can bring it up right here on Versus Battle Wiki, because somebody already did the calculations. Thank you to Crimson Azoff on Versus Battle Wikis. He did the calculations because somebody requested it, and as said here, it says, while in Mystic Falls, Virginia, Damon is infected by werewolf venom. In Caroline, in a desperate long shot, Klaus calls an attempt to get him there to save them. Problem though, Klaus is in New Orleans, Louisiana at the time, and when Caroline calls him, he doesn't pick up. Caroline states that she will call him back in 10 minutes. So this is where we get the 10-minute speed feat from, is because Caroline said she will call him back in 10 minutes, but he already shows up before that even happens. So how fast is that? Let's work it out according to him. So he does the quantifications, right? He does all the math, he does the distancing, and then he comes to the conclusion that while he knows that Mystic Falls is between those two towns, they are 109.3 kilometers apart in real life, as Mystic Falls looks almost right between the two. I will assume that it is about where this little place called Lovingston is in real life. Happy, of course you are. Calculations. New Orleans is 1,524.048 kilometers away from Lovingston, according to Google Maps. As a low ball, let's assume that Klaus ran the distance in the whole 10 minutes that he was given. So he's quantifying just how fast Klaus ran from New Orleans, Louisiana to Mystic Falls, Virginia. And in order to quantify that, you would have to use the formula for distance in time, which is distance divided by time, which is 2,540.08 meters per second, or Mach 0.74 speeds, which puts Niklaus Mikaelson easily at hypersonic speeds, which is about right. So yeah, that's already quantified for us there. Also, in terms of other feats, we see Scott McCall easily eat bullets, and he looks like he's not affected by them, which I would say is very impressive. But we've also seen Scott get his ass kicked to the point where he's extremely exhausted and extremely tired. And I haven't even gotten to the Ghost Riders and Garrett Douglas yet. He also I keep messing up his name. DemiGod also said that Scott McCall beat Garrett Douglas, which is not true. I just rewatched that entire fight. Garrett Douglas had him on the ropes and literally had this man laying flat, shaking his head, wondering where the hell he was for 90% of the fight. Scott literally only got 2 hits in Douglas, and that was it. And even then, Douglas recovered extremely quick, wasn't even affected by them. Instant recovery. If anything, Douglas was more worried about Scott trying to get to the diverter and diverting the train away from Beacon Hills rather than actually trying to take on Scott head on. But even then, Scott is not as I wouldn't say as talented, but he's not as trained as a fighter as Douglas is, as Douglas was part of the Nazi regime, so he would have all the fighting skills taught to him by the Nazis during World War II, and he used some of that training in his fight against Scott. You could also see he's more of a formal fighter than he is too, whereas Scott, when Scott fights most of his opponents, he uses his agility most of the time, which is true because Scott knows he's not as physically strong, and it's Scott's strongest attribute. So yeah, his agility and reflexes is what Scott is most dependent on, as he's shorter and more leaner than the more brawny werewolves, Derek, Vernon, Boyd, Ennis, of course. So instead of relying on his brute strength, which is why we never see Scott fight like Ennis or like a Deucalion, we always see Scott use his agility and speed to his advantage, allowing him to duck, flip, jump, and twist to evade ammunition and physical blows. And also, I don't think we've ever seen Scott dodge bullets. Like, Scott has moved out of the way and jumped out of the way of bullets, but we've never seen him directly do shit like Satomi Ido can. So, yeah, and when Satomi Ido was dodging the bullets, it was literally head on. Like, she was literally moving like Matrix style out of the way to dodge the bullets of that one huntress who was or that one assassin who was trying to kill her in season 4. Meanwhile, when somebody usually shoots at Scott, he'll usually just jump out of the way and hide behind cover because he knows he'll end up like how Deucalion did in season 6, episode 19, aka Broken Class, when he got literally bodied and he was laying flat on his stomach, looking down at the ground, deceased, with piles of blood coming from underneath him because he got shot up by some fodder jobber humans who haven't even been hunters for that long. So yeah, that's enough of Scott McCall. Now let's get on to Niklaus Mikaelson. As I already said, we already quantified his speed feat of running from Mystic Falls to running from New Orleans to Mystic Falls, which oh my god, which puts him at hypersonic speeds far above Scott McCall. We also see Klaus casually decapitating people, and I also have the quantifications for how much brute force is required to decapitate somebody. So that is right here. So it approximately rounds out to 9,408 newtons, which is the proper calculation and hypothesis according to this guy on Quora.com who did the calculation himself for just how much force is required to decapitate somebody with 1 or 2 hands. So yeah, that's extremely impressive considering that Klaus does it with the same speed he uses to fight people too. Usually, most of the time, it's just one clean sweep. So yeah, that easily puts Klaus above Scott McCall in terms of the strength department too. Scott has never had a strength feat on screen in the entire 6 seasons of Teen Wolf that has even come close to that. Also, I also have the quantification for how much, or just how much near how much force is required to break through the rib cage, because in order to rip out a person's heart, you have to break through the rib cage first, because the rib cage is the body part that protects the heart. So yeah, after doing some research, I looked on livescience.com, and we have the quantifications right here on screen. After looking at several kicks from several different fighting styles, experts have quick sharp blow that delivers some 3,300 newtons of force has a 25% chance of cracking an average person's ribs. So a average punch of 3,300 newtons of force only has a 25% chance of cracking an average person's ribs. And Klaus Mikaelson and his siblings and other people and other vampires too are casually shown just putting their hands through the chest and immediately ripping the hearts back out, which means they have to have force that's above 3,300 newtons of force to punch through the rib cage, not break their hand while doing so, because the rib cage is one of the strongest bones in your body. And let's just say if an average person were to punch through your stomach, right, to punch through your chest, try to rip your heart out, and at least try to get through your rib cage, the average person would probably have their hand break immediately upon hitting the rib cage, because it's so goddamn strong and so hard to get through. So the fact that vampires can casually do this, and the fact that Klaus can casually do this, and we've seen him on numerous occasions on screen do it in both Vampire Diaries and the originals, makes this shit all the more impressive as well. Also, Klaus is an expert swordsman, as we've seen him take out an entire army of hybrids, literally 12 hybrids that can easily take out lower level vampires in that verse by giving them the bite and having them being killed by their werewolf venom and stuff like that. We've seen these hybrids job out to Klaus while Klaus had his sword with him too, so he's an expert swordsman, as seen on screen with the clips right here of him taking out the 12 hybrids that he made that Tyler Lockwood helped get their freedom back with Haley. We've also seen him be able to fight an entire army of Marcel's vampires without any sort of fatigue whatsoever, even though he was already beaten and sedated by these vampires and put in chains and shit. All this man had to do was get angry and then break through, and then he proceeded to make mince meat of these vampires, washing them left and right, making them look like fodder, jobbers, making them look like some new WWE wrestler who has no clue what the hell he's doing on NXT. Also, we've seen Klaus Mikaelson easily, and I mean easily, and even to mention, in that fight, he killed roughly 24 non-original vampires as well, something Scott McCall wouldn't be able to do in the slightest, as he can't even take on most of the supernaturals in his own verse. Like, if you're jobbing out to the Dread Doctors, who are literally just human beings enhanced by their mechanical suits that they're wearing with the electromagnetic properties they have, you are trash. The only creature that was even able to take on the Dread Doctors in season 5 was the Beast of Jebudan, and that creature is way stronger than Scott McCall by a large margin. And the Beast even complimented Scott by saying he was strong, and then immediately proceeded to bury him by saying, "What kind of werewolf are you?" A hilarious line that makes me laugh my ass off till this day. And the Beast was like, "Let me show you how to really kill somebody," because he doesn't fight with a killer instinct. Now, in this versus battle, Scott's going to fight with a killer instinct, of course, but it's not going to be enough to take on Klaus, because Klaus just has so many different powers and abilities that put him above Scott, and so many just different feats that put him above anything Scott has done on screen in Teen Wolf. Also, we've seen Klaus Mikaelson literally rip off the body parts of human beings, as seen in the original season 3 episode 1, where he takes that human who he encountered and pulled in the alley. We literally see him. I don't know if it was his arm or his leg, but I'm pretty sure it looked like his arm from the silhouette we see. We literally see him rip off body parts and just throw them on the ground like disposable action figure individual pieces. It's crazy the amount of power that Klaus Mikaelson has over Scott McCall. We've also seen Klaus take on numerous different acolytes of what's her name, Dahlia, with his father, and not even be fatigued in the slightest as well. We've also seen him be able to just throw objects and easily decapitate people, such as throwing a graduation cap and decapitating somebody with it. So the amount of force that required to decapitate somebody with a graduation cap is absolutely insane too. I don't know the quantifications for that, and I probably should have quantified that before I made this video. But that being said, Scott McCall has never had a feat coming close to that as well. So yeah. I can go on for hours about this. This video is almost like 30 minutes, but essentially let's go over the points on who's more powerful and who's stronger than the other, and let me give you my final thoughts on who this fight would go, because like I said, I can go on with this video for about like an hour explaining just why Klaus is stronger than Scott. But yeah, speed easily goes to Klaus. Fighting ability goes to Klaus. Super strength goes to Klaus. Agility and reflexes go to Scott McCall. Sensory perception goes to Scott McCall. Attack potency goes to Niklaus Mikaelson. What else is here? Let me go back on here on Versus Battle Wiki real quick. Lifting strength, of course, goes to Klaus Mikaelson. Striking strength goes to Klaus Mikaelson. Durability goes to Klaus Mikaelson. Stamina goes to Klaus Mikaelson. Intelligence, I would say Scott is slightly less intelligent than Klaus is, because Scott does have a tendency to make plans not on the fly, but he can make pretty good plans when he wants to. If there's like something not going according to like the original plan, he can always come up with a plan B. But Klaus seems to do so on the fly, as seen on screen with his combat prowess and survival experience too. And he was even stated to be the smartest of all of his siblings by his own aunt. So yeah, intelligence goes to Klaus Mikaelson. So basically, Scott gets outclassed in almost everything, literally. So yeah, the only way I can see Scott even coming close to taking out Klaus would be with his standard weaknesses, which being fire. So Scott would have to stab Klaus with a wooden object through the heart, which would incapacitate them in a dead-like state for several hours, even though Klaus on screen has been shown waking up in shorter amounts of time, which is not going to happen because Klaus, like I said before, is going to move way too fast for Scott to keep up with. Decapitation, which would not permanently kill Klaus either, because unlike a normal vampire, an original hybrid will heal if their head is removed. However, it is hinted that this will take some time, as Damon once stated on the Vampire Diaries that he tried everything, including dismembering and even placing some parts in a blender, and even tried killing an original, and when trying to kill an original, but when he returned to normal after an unspecified amount of time, Klaus would have had a stronger heal. Klaus has a stronger healing factor than a standard original vampire. Sorry, I keep stuttering in this video. I'm trying to just get my points across. I don't have a script for this, so yeah. Heart extraction too. An original hybrid cannot be killed by this means, though they went to a death-like state until their bodies literally regenerate a new heart. So Scott can try ripping out Klaus's heart, but like I said, we've never seen Scott be able to do that at all whatsoever, and it's more than likely he would break his hand trying to break through Klaus's rib cage. And there's just numerous other things that Scott could do, or he could try, but it would all end up being futile in the end because of one thing: Klaus's speed. The fact that Klaus fights as fast as he runs makes this an extremely difficult fight for Scott to win, and it's just an embarrassment. Like, Scott is gonna job out very quickly. Klaus is probably gonna resort to either ripping his heart out 1, decapitating him 2, ripping out his throat 3, and he has a bunch of other methods on his side which he can use to just get rid of Scott very quick. So the winner easily in this goes to Niklaus Mikaelson, and it was pretty obvious from the beginning. I don't know why I had to spend like a 30-minute video explaining this, but some people on YouTube are very, very stupid. And yeah, all this bullshit about, oh, Scott McCall beat the Dread Doctors, he beat Garrett Douglas, is just a bunch of made up BS by Scott McCall fanboys like DemiGod and his cult and army of yes men who he calls his judges, who will do nothing but defend him and suck him off just to fuel his ego. So yeah, hopefully this makes Teen Wolf Theory feel better, because he's not stupid. He's actually pretty smart, and his analysis of how this fight would go is very correct. Hopefully you guys all agree too. And yeah, I'm Jades Corner. Make sure you guys have a great rest of your day. I still can't believe I had to make this video to embarrass DemiGod and oh my god. I'll catch you guys in the next Teen Wolf video. I got some Teen Wolf the movie videos coming out today. So yeah, peace. And I'll just play this for DemiGod because yeah, he got absolutely embarrassed with his takes in this video as well, and I'll probably expose him by playing his comments after this and just absolutely burying the guy. So yeah, peace.